we're going to put it in reverse. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you taking the time to hear me out and listen to the conversations I have with each guest. Check out the podcast's official Instagram page up now, TFXPOD, TFX Pod, Talking From Experience Podcast. You're listening to Talking From Experience. If you're an experienced listener, welcome back. And if you didn't know, you're about to learn. My name is Steven and I am your host. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Being that this will be the last episode of the year, I wanted to take a look back at the show this year, the guests, funny moments, and just some of the really cool conversations that I've had with really awesome people that I'm so grateful gave me their time to be on the show. So it's a look back, a recap of sorts. So what I'm going to do is introduce each of the guests, play a little snippet from their episode, and then share a little something about what it was like talking with them and stuff I learned and stuff like that. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. So episode 1, man. David Diaz. This is actually my buddy who played a big part in helping me start this podcast, mainly because he's someone who I really enjoy talking with about his career and industry. And I thought, screw it, man. Let's do a podcast. So here's David.
Because any manipulation to your site, like using Google's ranking factors, is, considered, technically manipulating. But some folks don't refer to like the regular things of SEO, like optimizing a site, as manipulation. They refer to it as optimizing. It's like, oh, I'm not manipulating the site, I'm optimizing it. It's like, oh, right, okay. I'm
gonna use that if I ever start a cult. I'm not manipulating people, I'm optimizing them.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny.
I'm optimizing them for a better world.
Yes, just as I'm optimizing this drink for them. Okay, it's like really, you're optimizing. So you didn't just put cyanide in that Kool-Aid? No, I'm optimizing it. No.
You can go ahead and find out for yourself.
Yeah, it's your get out of jail free card right there. I don't think that would really hold up in court.
So Homeboy and I actually talked for about 2 to 3 hours during that conversation. And if I remember correctly, about 30 minutes of audio actually made it into the episode. Because, we were just having fun with it, And at the time, I wasn't 100% sure what I wanted to do with the show. So that's why, it was pretty generic cover art, not really descriptive. And the trailer was more of a quick little explanation of what I'm doing here. And not so much a mission statement because, like I said, I didn't know what I want to do with the show. Heck, I'm still kind of figuring that out. But as I'm going along, as I'm acquiring guests and learning from them, I feel like this thing's starting to take shape. But, if it wasn't for David, I would never have started. So, David, I appreciate you, brother. Next up, man. Episode 2, dude. We had Valerie Carter. Now, in this day and age where the hype is powerful women, this guest is just, really one of the hardest working people I've ever met. I was so happy that she agreed to be on the show. Check her out. Have you ever done anybody else's podcast before?
Oh, yes, I have.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I did a podcast with the Women That Boss Up. I did a couple of them.
Okay. Let's go. I thought it was the very first one you did.
I know, right? No, remember I told you I had that podcast interview with the Women That Boss Up.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that was a podcast interview. I thought it was like a convention.
No, that's something, that was after I did the podcast interview. They were interviewing me, so now it's that book tour, the book that I'm going to be in. Are you really asking me these questions? Okay, golly, I was talking like we're just really.
That's the vibe I'm going for.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, you want to ask that question again, Stephen? Now you got to start over.
No, it's okay. I think we're good.
Okay. Well, it was for the Women That Boss Up tour. It's a new book that I will have a chapter in. And so they were interviewing me for that.
Now, this is actually one of my favorite moments on the podcast because she was the first person to have told me this, and not the last, that they weren't actually sure when I started recording. However, I'm actually proud of this because part of the experience that I want to give you as a listener is I want to make you feel like you just walked into the room and there we are talking, And up until these 2 interviews, I was actually using an outline for the show. So I would write down what questions I wanted to ask, what I wanted to learn. But for some reason, I just felt that it wasn't for me. I was going through the questions. However, I found it a little bit difficult going into that conversation, that I wanted to have, like I said, making it feel like we were just kicking back, it's casual. So I ditched the outline and just went for it and recorded episode 3 with my guest, Chris Myers. And check it out. Here's how that went. Man, what's the worst tattoo you ever did?
Damn. Trying to think.
I mean, that's good that you can't just think about it. So they were all, some of them like they could have been better, but you haven't done anything that was straight like, yo, like my bad, bro.
Nah, I've hiccuped here and there, you know what I'm saying, but I never really like fucked up hella bad. I mean, unless it was like due to them not being able to take it and whatnot. There's always this one tattoo that I refer back to. I did on this woman's chest, and it wasn't like on her tit or none of that, but it was like on her heart. And she had came in on the Friday the 13th, and anybody that gets tattoos on Friday the 13th knows that it's packed to the max. And I had just done mad tattoos, and it was my first time tattooing a chick right there. So I was like, okay. And she just wanted a sun with like a moon inside the sun, kind of like a duo thing. And I laid the stencil down, and it looked like everything was going to go good. But whenever I went to tattoo her, I had her laying like flat on her back, when really you're supposed to incline somebody so that you can pull down on their skin. You know what I'm saying? You got to pull down on their skin, because what I learned was whenever she was like this and I'm trying to like tattoo on her chest, all her like boob juice is like flowing upwards, and it's not comfortable to tattoo on. And the tattoo, it could be fixed very easily. Like, if she ever watches this, just letting you know, I can fix that shit for you. But I didn't finish it all the way because I was scared. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to fuck her up no more than it already was. And I told her, I was like, look, man, I don't know what's going on with your tattoo right now, but this is not working with me. And then whenever I told the mentor what happened, you know what I'm saying? I told everybody in the shop what happened, and everybody was like, oh, you're supposed to incline her, bro. Like gravity. You got to pull down on her skin so that way that it's fully stretched. Because I was trying to stretch her skin.
Yeah.
And it would just like go around where I'm stretching. You know what I'm saying? It was not working. It's like trying to draw on a water balloon. That's what it was like. It's like everywhere. And it was just very difficult. But that one always does stick to me. And I mean, it happens. I was just starting out. It was my first Friday the 13th. And lesson was learned. Even on dudes too. It's not just females. On dudes, you gotta incline them, man. Because even if you skinny, bro, I promise you, we gonna have to incline you just so we can get a better finesse with the needle. That's all it is.
Homeboy talks about having finesse with the needle. My man has a finesse with the way he speaks, dude. I really enjoyed this one. Homeboy's a really good storyteller. And Chris, man, if you're hearing this, bro, thank you so much for your time. I think that was still one of my favorite stories anyone's ever told on the podcast, so I appreciate you for that one, man. Next up, we have Ariel Cruz. Now, this dude was my first in-person guest. So that was really cool, getting to vibe and have that smooth back and forth, because when you're on a virtual interview, there's that delay. There's, you're not sure that the person's done talking yet when they take a long pause. And then they think you're not responding, so they keep talking. And then it's like you both start talking at the same time, and then the other person stops, and it's just a whole mess, man. But none of that in this one, man. Check us out. That's one of the things they criticize the media about, because they don't do reports on like, oh yeah, if you take a 30-minute walk, you get the vitamin D from the sun, and it'll help out a lot. and your immune system will have a better chance of fighting off the disease.
That's interesting because like I know Biden recently posted he got COVID again.
Yeah.
He has like 2 boosters and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So even, I'm not saying it's ineffective, but like, you're still not safe. So.
I mean, and he's really old.
That's just true.
So just the immune system is probably giving up. It's trying to kill him.
My goodness.
His
dude.
own immune system is like, hey man, we're tired, dude. Like, I understand you're the president, but
we're tired of you.
mean, we're tired of just working.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is, dude. Not even the president's immune system trying to go back to work.
He doesn't get the message, dude. I think he's he's like, whatever, I'm gonna keep doing it.
I haven't got vaccinated either. I had it, man, not too long ago.
Oh, that is true. You did.
Ariel Cruz, man. Thank you so much for coming through and making fun of the president with me. I'm just kidding, man. That was just a nonsense comment. Really, though, it was just super fun recording that one. Can't wait to catch up on the show again. And yeah, that one was actually one of the longer episodes I've done. And he was supposed to come on to talk about public relations, but you know how it is, man. You get to talking with some of your friends, you forget what you're talking about and just go off on tangents. But I actually got mixed feedback on that episode. I had some people telling me, you should have talked more about public relations and stuff like that. And I had other people saying like, oh, like it was so laid back and relaxed and I really enjoyed listening to it. Didn't even really feel the 53 minutes or whatever the heck it was. But hey, man, to all of you who gave feedback, whether you liked it or not, thank you so much for the feedback. Your feedback is how I develop the show, how I know what kind of guests to book. And like I've said before on the show, I want to make a show that you enjoy. So feel free to hit me up. And speaking of hitting me up, I just created an official Instagram page strictly for the podcast. I'd been using my personal Instagram page to promote the show, but now I have a page strictly for the podcast. For those of you who don't really care what I'm up to on weekends. And that's on Instagram at TFXPOD, TFXPod, Talking From Experience Podcast. Follow the page, like my posts, shoot me a message. Like I said, your feedback is how I grow the show. Next up, we have my friend Ryan Richard. This one was actually really fun for me because it was the first time I got to take the podcast studio on the road. I actually went to him to record the episode, and it was a blast, man. Ryan, thank you so much for buying lunch that day. And if you're curious as to how I can take the studio on the road, like I said, feel free to hit me up. I'm more than willing to share what I know about recording and podcasting so that you can create a show of yours if you want. And that's another reason I wanted to create the show, is to introduce you to what podcasting can be and, all the different things you can do with this platform. Although it may seem like most of the time it's just talking. I've gotten to have really cool conversations with really interesting people and learn so much about different aspects of society and cultures and businesses. So I'm learning as I'm attempting to help you learn. Here's me telling Ryan about Parks and Rec. You familiar with the show Parks and Recreation?
I heard it. I've never seen it.
Okay, the guy, Nick Offerman, he's the comedian.
Uh-huh.
He's one of the main characters, and he's very... He's just a character, and he goes, he's like, I love the saying, give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. It's like, how about you don't give a man anything and you eat the fish? He's a grown man. Fishing's not that hard.
That's a good one. Hey, I gotta say this though. Speaking of sayings that don't really make sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hate when people say, you know this saying? You want your cake and eat it too.
That doesn't make sense. That means absolutely nothing.
That's so stupid. Like, no, it's cake. What
else am I going to do with it? But actually, I'm trying to think of how that can be applied. I think that might actually be a good saying for people who aren't patient, who want to be involved in the stock market.
What's that?
So they want the cake, which is owning the stock, but they want to eat it, which is reaping the benefits of, like you said, they'll sell it because they've made 5%.
Yeah, that's somebody who's
That's somebody who wants to have their cake and then eat it.
They eat it before it even gets baked. They eating batter.
Yeah,
that's the batter liquors.
They eating the cookie dough.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not good for you.
Yeah, let it bake out. Let it cook. Yeah.
Ryan, thank you so much for having me in your home, and it was a really good time. I appreciate the knowledge and insight you shared about investing in the stock market. It just decided to start raining really hard, so my bad if there's stuff going on in the background. Anyway, moving on. My next guest, and no offense to any one of my other guests, is, I believe, one of my favorite, if not my favorite guest I've ever had on the show. Kevin Rivera. Just what a character, man. Some of the experiences he shared and just his overall way of expressing himself is so genuine, and he freaking launches aircraft into the sky. Check it out.
When I was an island team at one point, I was basically refurbishing that command center you see on the flight deck. So basically just removing the old paint, rust, all that, and just painting over it, making sure it looks nice for next time we go out to sea.
Yeah, man, you gotta make sure the enemy knows who's shooting at him.
That's right, man. We're the best at what we do, man. Not even the Chinese operate at night.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, we mastered the operation on flight deck. So all flight operations, we mastered it a long time. We wrote the book on it, basically. And we do flight ops at night where you can't see nothing out at sea. Trust me, it's pure blackness. Like, it's quite the experience, man. I mean, I remember looking up at the night sky, seeing all the stars. It was so beautiful. But like I said, we're the best at it, man.
Kev, I cannot wait to have you back on the show in person. You know, I sometimes complain about my guests not having the best audio when they do remote interviews, but Kev gets away with it. He's in a freaking barracks, dude. Come on. Appreciate what he does. Kev, if you're hearing this, thank you so much. Keep supplying us with your beautiful art. Coming up next is Steve Suarez. And really, one of the best ways that I can describe my man is just chill, dude. Every time we hang out, every time we go do something, it's just such a relaxed time and chill. And I think it really shows in this episode. Check it out. Yeah, not too long ago, I think somebody stole a bulldozer off a site. It was on Hood News.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Stealing a piece of equipment.
A bulldozer, man.
I think those things have like tracking devices or something though. So who knows? It might have been an inside job that they got away with it.
Yeah, maybe. Most likely, right? Dang, I didn't think about that. Because I think they did get away with it.
Well, yeah, who knows, man?
I never heard
things
it.
have like equipment wise, I think they have tracking devices. I mean, why else would you rent something out like that? You get me?
Yeah.
Or the owner is gonna have to pay for it or something, or they have insurance.
No, they leave them on site. You know, you would think, at least you would hope that they got tracking devices.
You also get randomly calls when people climb your crane. People climb cranes a lot too.
And what's that for? Just to
take pictures, just see up there. You can climb a crane, because those things are really tall.
Yeah.
They can be pretty tall. So, I think in Austin, we had a guy climb a crane 3 times. That same guy, he went to jail for 1 day or something. Wow. He got released the next day. And 2 weeks later, he'd do it again.
In a sense, I feel like this episode really captured what I'm trying to do with the show. It was casual, fun, informative. It was just all the things that I wanted this show to be. And I got to thank the homie Steve for coming through and doing that. And then just when I think that, how can I top this last episode? I have this conversation with Matthew Gray. Check it out.
So we had a specialized vehicle, a big van that would go on tour with us, and they would be creating T-shirts that were bootlegged, meaning they weren't legally accepted to be able to sell. So we were working the legal tours and working for the merchandising company, working for the band, but the folks in the van behind us were making cheapo knockoff T-shirts to sell at other concerts that were nearby. So that was pretty expressive experience also, because that was like the Wild West for us.
Yeah, those are actually my favorite ones. I always try to find the bootleggers every time I go to a show because, they have, I like to say they have exclusive merchandise. You're not going to find it on the website and stuff like that.
That's entirely right. We had artists in the van behind us, and they would just make up stuff that was just so awesome. They could create album art and T-shirt art and anything you would want to look at for your wall. But we had them, and they were making T-shirts for us. And so as far as we were concerned, we were really happy, and we knew we were outrunning the law during that time. So there was a little bit of that outlaw part of what we were doing, even though we were legal on the one end. We were, running rampantly illegal on the other end. So it was kind of, an experience for us, almost like drug dealers in the T-shirt world.
Right. I don't think the consequences are as big for t-shirt dealers, though. You want to talk about talking from experience? The stories that Matthew told on that episode were just amazing and really just fun to listen to. It was captivating, and it really helped influence what I want to do with the show moving forward. People's experiences throughout their life, career, what have you. And this was another one. The episode is around 30 minutes, and we actually talked for maybe close to 2 hours. I do not think I can be grateful enough to all of my guests for their time, their energy, just everything positive that I have experienced and hopefully you have experienced listening to the show. And speaking of positive experiences, Danielle Boer. This was probably the episode that I laughed the most on. And I mean, come on, she's a comic. And I really appreciate what she shared and, just the beauty of turning our negative experiences into tools that we can use to make a positive impact in others' lives and even our own. Dividing a room. I don't know. I feel like that's probably a no-no in comedy, or it's going to happen a lot. But like, to me, that's hilarious when two people can't agree.
See, you would love it then. That's cool. Yeah, you sound like a typical comic. I do not. I'm so caring and nice, and I'm like, oh, but what if? And people are like, who cares? I'm like, what if I offend so and so? And they're like, who cares? I'm like, I care. I still say it sometimes, some stuff, but sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. But, I mean, that's because I'm too big. So if somebody comes and attacks me, I'm too fat to run. And so I either have to just like lay down and wave a flag of surrender, or wait till somebody rolls me off the stage. And I don't know if they would do that, So I can't afford bodyguards. And so, yeah, I try to be careful. I'm like, I don't want to offend nobody, because if they come beat my butt up, I can't run fast. So I'm in trouble.
Yeah. So I guess I would just tell them, hey, you don't have to tackle me. I already can't see. Just chuck something at me if you don't like what I'm saying.
Oh gosh.
I'm not about to
have a hard time getting up. Don't knock me down, okay?
I'm not about to Doug. This is a cane, not a baseball bat. It's just something about comedy that definitely is therapeutic. I feel like, even though this is one of probably the most funny episodes on this podcast, it's the one where I opened up the most about my struggle with being legally blind. And I wasn't expecting that, but that just goes to show the power of comedy. Danielle, thank you so much. So there's only 3 more guests to go, and I'm glad that there's only been 12 episodes of the podcast this year since I started halfway through. And I don't know what I'm going to do next year when I have upwards of 20 episodes. Maybe I'll do a top 5 or something like that. But next up is Hilda Hernandez, and I actually wanted to have her on strictly to talk about anime. And when I showed up to record, we were talking, catching up, and she actually reminded me that she's actually visited Japan, and the episode turned out so much better than I ever could have expected. Here's a snippet.
I miss hanging out with my friends. I miss having game nights. Ugh, I love my game nights. Just like connecting with people and just like, I don't want to say some people do get competitive, but we do. But I mean, I'm not going to get to the point where like, I hate you, get out of my house.
It's all in good fun.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes it fun, is sometimes you get a little competitive and everybody starts getting a little loud.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are the best.
That's the fun of it.
Can you imagine a game night where nobody cared for winning? It's like, oh okay.
Right.
Right. Oh, you're ahead. Oh. That's okay. Overly polite game nights. We gotta have that. We gotta have a what is it? Like noise meters. Do like what is it? What is that show? Silent Library.
Silent Library. Oh my gosh! Yes.
That would be fun. That would be amazing.
I remember Silent Library.
That was a good show. I actually chose this clip because being an old friend and life getting in the way, on top of all the weirdness that came with this pandemic, it was really cool just catching up and shooting the wind. Next up, we have Clifton Corbin, here to tell us to study up on our finances. Check it out. I wonder why these things aren't taught in school.
Our education system is technically supposed to give us skills for employment, but I wish it would also give us just life skills. Like we used to have, I think, more life skill type courses in school. And I know some of the states do require a personal finance course, completion of a financial or personal finance course for graduation. But I feel like it's only about maybe 50% of the states require that. And even a course probably isn't sufficient to help students really understand this. Like I've seen some reports that show even students who've taken that course still don't feel confident to manage their money after they've taken the course once they're like off in university or college, what have you. So it's a miss. It's something that that I wish more schools were doing, but knowing that schools aren't doing it just means there's even more of a need and more of a rationale for parents. Like I said, parents, uncles, aunts, grandparents, anyone who has, like I said, that privilege of having a young person in their life to talk about how money works, to talk about how credit works, to talk about why, building wealth is important, to maybe talk about donating and why it's important to be, grateful for the things you have. So a lot of the stuff we've talked about is on the, earning, having side. But another thing that I really encourage adults to talk about with kids is about being appreciative of the things that they have.
Really, really great conversation. I learned so much about what I have yet to learn about personal finance. And it's probably been the most educational episode, in my opinion. Clifton, thank you so much for that. And last but not least, Mr. Money Ron Nussbaum. I follow him on Instagram and I just love it every day. He's posting his Be a Champion series and just encouraging people to get out there and get out of your comfort zone and just all the things that, may sound cliche, but we need to hear them. Check it out. You can't just hope and pray for something to happen. You got to go out there and make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So taking action is one of my number one disciplines and one of the number one things I say people can do. With anything that you want to go do, the first thing that has to happen is you have to take an action. And you have to continuously take actions because not every action is going to lead to something that's awe-inspiring, but it's just about compounding that down. So every action you take, there's a compound effect for the next action that you take, and then the action after that. And then once that compound effect keeps going, eventually something big happens from all of that.
This was a truly, truly encouraging episode. Sometimes I think to myself like, hey, why am I even doing this? I don't want to edit. I don't want to record. But then I hear from people who listen to the show and they say, hey, that was a good episode, or, I didn't know that, and, that was really funny. And I'm just like, wow, people are actually listening to the things I'm saying, the conversations I'm having, and it's really encouraging. So as we close out, I just want to thank everyone who's reached out, given your feedback, or just said hi, telling me that you listen to the show. Could not do this without you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you taking the time to hear me out and listen to the conversations I have with each guest. Check out the podcast's official Instagram page up now, TFXPOD, TFX Pod, Talking from Experience Podcast. We'll talk next year. Bye-bye. Stephen C. Productions.